In case you haven't been paying attention recently, it is super clear that Elly De La Cruz cannot wait for this season to be over.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every single day. My name is Stephen Offenbaker. His name is Jeff Carr. We love baseball. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love talking about baseball with you. We love talking about the Reds with you. We've been doing it for a combined 14 seasons now. That is a long time. We love talking about baseball all the time. Thanks so much for being here and making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. On today's show, a little bit later, we're going to talk about how the Reds just need to keep beating the Cardinals like a drum. We're going to talk about the rest of this series that still has a little bit of meaning, although if you heard yesterday's episode, you know what we really think about that. But they need to beat the Cardinals. Also, Sal Stewart continues to do Herculean things since being called up 3 for 5 yesterday. Big night against the Cardinals. We're going to talk a little bit more about Sal Stewart and what the Reds should do with him moving forward. And where we're going to start today is with Elly De La Cruz. Elly was dropped in the lineup when he should have been dropped out of the lineup and given a day off. But no, we'll get into that. Elly is probably ready to forget about 2025. This season has not gone the way that he wanted to. And we're going to dig into that just a little bit because you look at how Elly has performed and it's really disappointing is the word that comes to mind. We're going to get into all of that on today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now. $5 in a winning $5 bet gets you $300 in bonus bets that you can spread around. That's a big time. We haven't seen that in a long time. If you want to get in on that, download the FanDuel app today. All right, Jeff, let's get into this with Elly De La Cruz because you look at how Elly's performed. You look at what has happened over the course of the season. It's not been good. And Terry Francona actually drops Elly in the lineup today. I don't think that went far enough. I don't understand the reluctance to just sit him down.
No, and to be honest with you, I would like to see it. But at this point, I just want to see him hit a home run because I think it's too late. It's too late to rest him. Like resting him right now, it almost feels like, man, I need to take a nap. But I'm going to bed in like 2 hours. Like, don't take a nap now. Don't rest him now. I think that we have learned a lot from this season of Elly De La Cruz. I saw a stat, Steve, and this was just so crazy. In that his first 79 games, he had 18 home runs. Mm-hmm. And in his last 70, he has 1 home run. Mm-hmm. A crazy just split of a season for him. And when it really comes down to it, there's going to be something said about what this 162 means to him. And I hope to God that when it comes to next season, he just goes off, has like a 7, 8, 9 WAR season. Because if he doesn't, then what is this all for? This has been his goal all throughout the season. It's clear. Play 162. And I think it's torpedoed everything that he has worked for. He is now, according to Baseball Reference, below 3 WAR. He was almost to 4 in July. That's how bad things have gotten over the last 2 months.
Let me ask you this, because I want to try and play devil's advocate just a little bit, but we did our episode yesterday. I think you and I both stand by what we said yesterday.
Yeah.
However, as we record, the Mets were off, and the Reds are still just 2 games out of that final wild card spot with a lot of teams bunched together. Set him down and give him a day off, and maybe he helps springboard them into the playoffs. Is that a crazy idea? Is that a crazy notion? I mean, I hear what you're saying. Too little, too late in resting him, but maybe give him another day off, stack it with an off day, get him rested, and maybe he can catapult this team into a postseason appearance.
You could do that here at the end of the St. Louis series and have him be off Wednesday and be off on the off day on Thursday, come back to the homestand really fresh and ready to go. And I don't say this from a physical standpoint. It is clear he is mentally fatigued.
Yep.
And everybody watching him sees it. Like even in this game, he had a hit that was a bit of a BABIP special. It was one of those pop flies that landed in no man's land, and he kind of got a little bit lucky that nobody was there because it wasn't really hard hit. But that's just baseball sometimes. Sometimes you need that to get going. He also drew a walk. And so there's a little bit that you want to like really kind of fine tune under a microscope and say, okay, these are reasons to see the turnaround happening. But then his final at bat of the night was more of the same. He swings at the first pitch that was a fall off the table curveball that fell off the table and about bounced. And then he looked at strike 2 that was a flat 95-mile-an-hour fastball that was belt high. And I there's still part of me that just cringes when I watch him bat because I know those were pitches he crushed early on in the year, and it's just where he's at in the season. The fact that when you step up to the plate, and I know there are people that like to belittle the athletic accomplishments of somebody on a baseball field, but hitting is different from any other sport in the world. Because you stand up to that plate and there's going to be something coming at you about 95 to 100 miles an hour that is moving one way. And then there's going to be something coming at you around 85 to 90 miles an hour that's moving a whole totally different way. And you have less than a second to decide whether or not you're really going to swing at that. And he has seen, I don't even know how many pitches this year. Like, I know that there's probably a stat that I got to go like really digging for it, but in 149 games and 647 plate appearances, that's a lot of pitches. And there just needs to be a day. And maybe you're right. Maybe it isn't too little too late, but with the mathematical survival that the Reds currently have in the playoff race right now, I look at this and I say the reason that they're in this spot, a big part of that is because of how they have managed Elly De La Cruz this season. Elly De La Cruz has got a 764 OPS, Steve. His OPS plus on the season is 104. You know, that's not superstar level.
No, it's not. It's terrible, Jeff. I maintain Francona needs to be the grown-up now. It's time for Francona to be the grown-up in the room and just tell Elly he has to take a day off. Look, I want to run some numbers by you. In his last 30 games, Elly De La Cruz slash line right now is 220, 267, 331. That includes last night's game. It was great. He had a couple walks. Cool. But again, 220, 267, 331. Those are Santiago Espinal-esque numbers.
Yeah.
Like, that is no different than what we're getting off the last guy on the bench. Elly De La Cruz has been a disappointment. And if I'm being honest, those include numbers from earlier in the month where he was playing a little bit better. If you want to drill down and look at the last 2 weeks, Jeff, it gets really, really ugly. Are you ready for this? Because buckle up. In the last 2 weeks, his slash line is 180, 242, 262. He's been terrible over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the season numbers for Santiago Espinal are 244, 294, 284. That's better than what he's been doing.
I want to say that again. I want to make sure that registers with the everydayers. The last 2 weeks of Elly De La Cruz, a batting average of 180, an on-base percentage of 242, and a slugging percentage of 262. I don't know that maybe you couldn't bumble into that if they gave you enough at bats. That's really bad.
It's really bad. Sal Stewart is hitting really well right now, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. Austin Hayes is doing decently. Tyler Stevenson has had a couple of good games in that time frame. Like, honestly, right now, Steve, like even on the season-long statistics, Baseball Reference has Austin Hayes is having a better year. And we look at Austin Hayes and saying, man, he's been pretty mid this year. So Elly De La Cruz has been kind of mid this year, and he hadn't run.
I think the only way to describe Elly is disappointing. There's been times he's been decent. Early in the season, he was great. But at the end of this season, we're going to look back on 2025 and just say Elly's performance was disappointing.
He's got to be better in 2026 for the Reds to get to the playoffs. The Reds built themselves around Elly De La Cruz, and the fact that he has played the way that he's played has been a big reason why we are still a little bit leery of this. But the Reds, they're mathematically alive, and one of the big reasons is Big Sal, because he's doing big things right now, and the Reds have a big decision about him when it comes to 2026. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There's so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you need to give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people, including myself. And if it's not all just the hype when it comes to Nutrafol. This is a supplement that is clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. I mean, let's be honest here. This Reds team, it's making me rip my hair out. And Nutrafol is going to help you with that because Nutrafol's got this clinically proven product that's going to target the exact needs for you and help you get your hair back. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On Reds listeners $10 off your first month with a free shipping as well when you use the code LOCKEDONMLB at Nutrafol.com. That's Nutrafol.com, and the promo code is LOCKEDONMLB.
There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all of the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all of the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Jeff and I tell you about this all the time. We go down to the Dora, we hang out there at the banks, we grab something to eat, and as we get closer to first pitch, we start looking at tickets. We get a great deal on tickets, we head into the ballpark, and we see a great Reds game. It's just that easy. If you want to get in on the action and score yourself a deal with the Gametime app, just download it right now. The Gametime app is where it's at. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase with the Gametime app. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today.
Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you're an everydayer, you're awesome. And if you're not, hit that subscribe button, become one here on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. When you do, you'll get Tim Daniel going live at the end of every Reds ball game. A few of those are left. Maybe we'll see the Reds climb back in this and we get to do some postseason Tim Daniel as well. But make sure you subscribe to Locked On Reds. All right, Steve, Big Sal doing big things. Another home run. He's got 4 home runs. He's got as many home runs as Jose Trevino. If he hits one more home run between now and the end of the season, he will have as many home runs as Gavin Lux, and he has 4 more home runs than Santiago Espinal. I mean, Santiago Espinal, you and me all have the same number of home runs in Major League Baseball this year, so that there's that. But Sal Stewart has been really good so far this year, and I think the big question is how does he affect the offseason? Because do you plan for this? Do you think that this is going to continue? Do you sit him into a position for the future and say, this is it, Sal, you're our guy?
So that's the reason I asked you to put this in the show today. You know, when you and I were doing prep, I'm like, we need a whole segment for Sal Stewart because I have some questions.
I got you. Me and you right here.
Looking at what you're saying, let's just drill down on this just a little bit. We got 2 weeks worth of body of work from Sal Stewart as a Major League Baseball player. In those 2 weeks, Jeff, 297, 622, 4 home runs, right? Okay. Let's drill down a little further. Let's talk about after he got through the first week. Let's talk about his second week in Big League Baseball, okay? Let's look at the last week of numbers. Buckle up for just a second, Jeff Carr, because in the last 2 weeks, he's got a 320 batting average with a 320 on base percentage, but slugging 680. That's his slugging over the last week. Again, 3 home runs in the last week. He hit 1 home run in the first week. Sal Stewart's doing some things. Now, we saw what he did at AA Chattanooga. We saw what he did at AAA Louisville. And we're seeing what he's doing now in Cincinnati. I think there's a broader question. We asked this question when he first came up, and we saw his first week's worth of work. And the question was, do they start talking extension right now? And my answer to you was, I need to see more. We've seen another week, and he has not shown any signs of slack. The question is, do we need to circle back? Do we need to ask the question once again, should the Reds be talking about locking him up right now to an extension to keep him around here for a couple extra free agent years?
I like it when you turn the tables this way. That is intriguing to me because we've talked about how the Reds need to figure out, and of course they've got to pick the right moment, they got to pick the right player, but they've got to take advantage of things like what the Brewers have done with Jackson Churio, like what the Red Sox have done with Roman Anthony, and look at these guys who they're like, this dude is a huge part of what we want to do for a long time.
Right. And the common denominator was they struck early. They didn't wait too long. They didn't let things get out of hand. They locked it up before there was really a body of work. They gambled on their guy.
Braves with Albies and Ronald Acuna as well. I think I'm in on this. Now, the interesting part would be, could you do him and Chase Burns in the same offseason?
Yes.
Man, I feel real
100%.
good about that.
Yes.
Do both those, like make sure both those guys just buy out. And we're not saying like sign them to a lifetime contract here. We're saying like buy out a year or two of free agency.
Hunter Green type deals.
Hunter Green type deals. Because I remember there were people in the comments section and replying to the Hunter Green deal that said, he's hurt a lot. I don't know if he's ever going to be worth that. Are we worried about that now? No, we're not. And I don't think we'd be worried about that with Chase Burns or Sal Stewart. I'm kind of in on this. The one thing that I give a little bit of pause to, and I am a little bit curious as to how he's going to grow next season, because I don't know that the league adjusts to him enough between now and the end of the year that we see this. But as it is right now, he hasn't taken a walk. And as it is right now, he is swinging at over 37% of the pitches that he sees outside the strike zone. League average on that number is 28%, almost 10% less than the amount of times he's swinging at this. He is also seen over half the pitches that he is seeing right now, 51.2% to be exact, are fastballs. Somebody's going to throw him a breaking ball. And currently, as it stands right now, he's batting $133 against that pitch. He has seen 8, at least according to Baseball Savant, 8 total off-speed pitches so far in his young major league career. Those numbers are going to go up. So how does he adjust to those things? But right now, he's having a lot of fun. And the numbers that we're seeing from what he is doing, the underlying numbers, as I'm talking about those other statistics that I'm concerned about from the underlying side of things, his quality of contact, his barrel percentage, those are all astronomical. His average exit velocity, Steve, is 94.1. That if he had enough at-bats to be qualified, he'd be in the 95 percentile of major league hitters. We're talking about Giancarlo Stanton type percentile for Sal Stewart here. So he's hitting the ball really stinking hard. It's just, how is the league going to adjust to him, and how does he adjust to the league? That's going to be the one thing that I think I do need to see early on next year. So I would be excited about a contract extension, but I also think that the Reds need to answer one other question before they answer that. And the question they need to answer is, what is the plan with him? Where does he play?
Because you're not wrong. Because we'll circle back to that right now, because I know I threw a curveball to you in where we were going to go with this segment, and I did that on purpose just to gauge your real reaction. But I think if we're being honest and if we're being fair, you can right now say that the Reds go to Goodyear next February with Sal Stewart penciled in as the front runner to be the first baseman on this team. I think Spencer Steer goes back into either a super utility role, or they run the play that I really want them to run, which is he moves to second base, Matt McLean moves to shortstop, Elly De La Cruz moves to the outfield. I think that's the best lineup the Reds could put forward. Will that happen? I don't know. But I think at the very minimum, Sal Stewart comes into the 2026 season as the front runner to be the first baseman on this team.
He has got a great swing. I love Sal's swing. It's one of the prettiest right-handed swings I've seen, and at least according to Baseball Savant, it's actually a little bit below league average as far as bat speed goes. So he's going to get a little bit stronger. They're going to work on that in the offseason. We're going to see that bat get a little bit faster next year. And these quality contact metrics may not necessarily be a mirage. They might be something that he can actually build upon and become the kind of middle of order hitter that this team has so desperately needed. So I think the other part of this question is, if you do go into the offseason with that plan, Does that take that need off the table, off the grocery list for Nick Krall, middle of the order guy?
The middle of the order guy, I don't think it does. I think you still need to be out there looking for another outfielder that's a bopper that can at least give you 20 to 30 home runs a year. We've been banging this drum for years, Jeff, and it doesn't get any better. No matter what happens on the infield, they need somebody in the outfield that's good for between 20 and 30 home runs, in addition to what you might get from Noelvi Marte. So no, I don't think that changes it at all. But this I know. In a month of baseball that has been abysmal, in a month of baseball that has been disappointing, Sal Stewart has brought the spark. Sal Stewart has brought some potential, and Sal Stewart has brought the fun. And I am looking forward to seeing what he does the rest of the way. But what the Reds need to do the rest of the way is beat the stinking devil magic Cardinals in the rest of this series. And we're talking about that coming up next.
With baseball in the stretch run, football getting started, there's no better time to go get in on the action on FanDuel than right now. And they've got this amazing offer that I don't see them do a whole lot. This is a very rare deal right now. But if you create an account on FanDuel and you place a $5 wager that wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. I said $300. Normally it's like half that. It's a really good deal. You got to go check out FanDuel right now. And you can check out tonight's line on the Reds and Cardinals, and I'm talking about the line on the total. The total runs scored over under is set at 8. Now, last night it was 8.5, and I told you to smash the over because they're going to score a lot of runs, and they scored 17 total runs. They doubled the over under total. So tonight we're going to say the under because Andrew Abbott is pitching, and so is McGreevy for the Cardinals. I think it's going to be a pitcher's duel, and I'm taking the under total 8 runs for the Reds and the Cardinals. That's over on FanDuel. Download the app today and take advantage of that $300 bonus bet offer for your first winning $5 bet.
If you can't watch us here on YouTube, you can find us in pretty much every single podcasting platform there is out there. We're in all the audio feeds. If we're not on one you need us to be on, message Jeff. He can make it happen. Click subscribe. If you're on YouTube, click subscribe and the notification bell. That way you get all of the Reds content we've got coming your way the rest of the season and all off season long. All right, Jeff, you know how I feel about the St. Louis Cardinals, and you know how I feel about things when the Reds play them. I want the Reds to beat them. I want the Reds to win the season series. I want the Reds to just make them feel bad. I want them to be humiliated, them and their fans and everybody involved with this organization, because I do not like the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, the mathematical possibility of making it into the playoffs and all of that stuff notwithstanding, I'm looking at this from a just Reds Cardinals perspective, because I was curious after they beat the Cardinals. All right, where's the season series stand and all this other stuff? The Reds are 5-6 against the Cardinals this year, and they finish it up these next 2 games. So they would have to win both these games to be above 500 against the Cardinals for the season. If they were to do that, and I get it, we're talking about the fact that, the Reds need to go on a run to even think about the playoffs and all this other stuff. And they're doing it against a team that's played them really well this year. But if they were able to do that and clinch a season series victory over the Cardinals, it'd be back-to-back years. That hasn't happened since the turn of the century. It's never happened in the Great American Ballpark era. In 1999 and 2000 were the last time that the Reds went back-to-back years with better than 500 records against these stinking Cardinals. So playoffs aside, and I know they're 2 games back, and I know there's plenty of reason to look at that and squint at that, and, like I always like to say, turn your head sideways, turn the lights down low, and jump up and down, and you can maybe see it working. But all of that aside, just beat the dang Cardinals and let's see if we can get above 500. They got the right guy in the mat at least to win today with Andrew Abbott getting the nod.
I'm pretty curious to see how Andrew Abbott does in this start, because he's coming off a really good start, a start where he went deep in the game, 7-8 innings. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it was 8 innings that he worked into in the last start. But he's been up and down, and we've watched him pitched, and we've watched how he's looked, and he looks like a guy who's tired. He looks like a guy whose legs are starting to go. This is the same problem he experienced last season, albeit he's pitched more. He's been healthy. He's been available. He's been in a lot of games. And I don't begrudge him for being tired at this point. There's a long stretch of this season where he carried this rotation. But I'm really curious to see how he looks when he comes out. I don't need Andrew Abbott to come out and have another 7 or 8 inning performance. I need 6 to 7 quality innings from him. Keep the Cardinals off the board and let the bullpen do the work the rest of the way. The Reds offense needs to cooperate, score a few runs. Let's get Andrew Abbott another win, and let's not make him work too hard to get it.
Yeah, looking at the last 7 starts for Andrew Abbott, the Reds are 2-5 in that time. But individually, Abbott has pitched 6 2/3, 7 2/3, 7, then 4, 5, and 4 2/3. That's when we really started to think that he was getting tired and that the season was kind of going downhill for him. And then he bounced back in a big way. Like you mentioned, 8 innings his last time out with just 1 earned run allowed against San Diego. And that was kind of that game where we're like, man, all right, something's different here. The Reds are turning things around. Andrew Abbott is turning things back around to where he was earlier on in the season. I'm with you. I'm not expecting 8 innings. It's just amazing to me that he has kept his ERA below 3 still, even through this struggling time. That's how good he has been early on this year, is that at one point and for a long period of time, his ERA was under 2. And so it has climbed up a little bit, but not to the point that we're still talking about it being a good season. We are still talking about this in the great area.
Where is he sitting in wins above replacement right now?
He leads the team, at least according to Baseball Reference. He's at 5.3. And then whenever you go to FanGraphs, because they have a slightly different calculation, I forget the nuances, it's flipped around. It's 3.5, but he's still he is right below Elly De La Cruz and leading the team.
Do you think he gets any Cy Young votes? I feel like he deserves to get some Cy Young votes. He has been phenomenal for this team.
I would say similar to where Hunter Green was last year. Hunter Green, I think, finished 7th last year in Cy Young voting. I could see Andrew Abbott finishing like 7th or 8th or something like that. I just don't think he does the sexy things that the Cy Young guys are going to get. His strikeout rate is right there at league average, 21.9%, and his walk rate is really good, but everything else is just about limiting the damage. And while that is exactly what a pitcher is supposed to do, his strikeout numbers really don't just put him in the forefront the way that other guys will get. Like he's not ever going to compete with a Paul Skeens. Let's put it that way.
And let's give everybody just a quick rundown also on Sunday's game. Hopefully the Reds will be going for a sweep to try and actually win the season series against Cardinals.
Wednesday's game, not Sunday's game. We're jumping ahead there.
All right. Wait. Okay. I want to clarify, folks. You guys have seen I am all over the place. My background is different every day. I have been traveling for a week. I was telling Jeff in prep, you guys, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what state I'm in. I don't know what time zone I'm in. So I apologize. Yes. When we get away from this series with the Cardinals, what are we looking at on the getaway day?
Final game, the Reds cannot play the Cardinals and not face Andre Pallante. They have to face Andre. I think it's contractually obligated at this point that Andre Pallante has to pitch against the Reds, and he does so very, very well. But Andre Pallante goes up against Brady Singer on Wednesday's getaway day game, which that game, is that timed as a getaway day game? I think it is. It is 1:15 p.m. Eastern time, so 12:15 p.m. Central time. But yeah, that's going.
I knew what time it was. I just didn't know. I knew what time it was. I didn't know what day it was.
I think he might have been more frustrated than those of us watching at home on Friday night when he left the game, having only given up 2 runs to the A's, and then by the way, that's how the game ended because the Reds didn't score anything. I just that for me has got to like stick in his craw a little bit. But then you look at the guy on the other side, and this Andre Pallante dude, there's nothing special about him. When you look at his season statistics, it's a 5.3 ERA. He has negative WAR when it comes to Baseball Reference's calculation. But Steve, when he pitches against the Reds, he has a 2.08 ERA in 18 total games pitched against the Reds, 56 1/3 innings that he's given up that 2.08 ERA. The Reds have hit just 2. I said 2 home runs against this guy. in 56 and a third innings.
All right, let me ask you this before we get out of here, Jeff. We got about a minute to go on today's show. Cincinnati Reds have 2 games remaining with the St. Louis Cardinals. Let's just say they do what we're asking them to do and they sweep the series and they win the season series with the St. Louis Cardinals. If you look at the standings at the end of this series, and the Cincinnati Reds are 2 games or less away from the final wild card spot, are you back in? Are you doubling down on this team making a postseason run? Because they are just teetering on that space where we want to be in and we want to be excited and we want to be hopeful. But I just don't know if I'm willing to let them suck me back in again.
I feel like I will be, because that's just who I am and that's just what I do. I think really when it comes down to it, it's going to be what happens with the Mets and the New York Metropolitans. Just really don't have that hard of a schedule left. They've got 3 against Washington. They do have 3 against the Padres. So that could be a little bit interesting, but the Padres, I mean, we saw the Padres are kind of reeling. They also play the Marlins, and then they got the Cubs. And I don't know what to make of the Cubs right now. The Cubs look like they are just screeching to a halt here coming to the end of the season. Pete Crow Armstrong has been a shell of himself. I mean, he had such a huge first half of the season. He's going to garner some MVP votes, but he's not this shoe-in for MVP that he was early on in the season. And Kyle Tucker is a shell of himself as well. So what version of the Cubs faces the Mets? That's going to be the tough one, because the Reds have nothing but divisional opponents the rest of this year, and they haven't played the division well. So I feel like if they are able to sweep, I'm going to start to believe a little bit again, because then you're probably talking about 2 out of 3 that the Mets take from the Nationals, which means that the Reds would gain a game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'd be back in.
Every time I think I'm out, they suck me back in. And that is where we're going to go ahead and wrap up this edition of Locked On Reds, folks. We're going to be on top of every single game the rest of the way. We're going to bring back all of the news, the reports, the rumors, the information. We're going to monitor this playoff race. We have kind of called it, but the Reds are teetering on the brink, and we're going to keep all of the information right here for you. Click subscribe. Click the notification bell so that you can stay in the hunt if the Reds stay in the hunt. We're going to be back in your feeds tomorrow with another breakdown of Reds Cardinals. And if you've checked us out and you've made it this far, click subscribe, click the notification bell, and then head over to the Locked On MLB feed, where you've got 2 great shows. You've got Paul Francis Sullivan, you can call him Sully, giving you a national perspective of all things Major League Baseball. And then you've got Locked On MLB Game Night, watching every single game, every single night, so that you don't have to, breaking down the happenings around MLB. We'll be back in your feeds tomorrow. Until then, we're going to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
I think we just spent 10 minutes jinxing the heck out of them. They're probably losing tonight.
That's our brand.
It's in the description, the profile description.
Right.
Says so.
100%.